Hello, all you freedom-loving people. Keir Starmer resigned today. J.D. Vance talked about the progress made with the Iranian government so far. Tulsi Gabbard's work continues to make positive impact, especially regarding Anthony Fauci, and the second most wanted on the fraudster list has been brought back to the United States for prosecution. Okay, let's get into it. One suspected fraudster is back in U.S. custody, one school superintendent is out of a job, and the FBI is at the center of both of these stories. Let's start with the fraudster. The man who was accused of helping run one of the biggest Medicare fraud schemes in U.S. history is now back in American custody. He was second on the most wanted list for fraudsters. Today, the FBI announced that Ibrahim Khaldoon Hilmi was returned to the United States after being found in Turkey. Hilmi fled the U.S. in May of 2025, but Turkish authorities later detained him. The FBI's Critical Incident Response Group then traveled to Turkey and brought him back to the United States on Friday. Hilmi is accused of helping orchestrate a Medicare fraud scheme worth about $3.7 billion. FBI Director Kash Patel called the operation a major success. Hilmi had been on the run for more than a year, but investigators eventually tracked him down. Kash Patel also thanked FBI Miami, the Department of Justice, Turkish authorities, and U.S. Ambassador to Turkey, Tom Barrack, for helping bring Hilmi back. Now, let's turn to the school superintendent who was out of a job. Yesterday, Alberto Calvillo resigned as superintendent of the Los Angeles Unified School District. His resignation came 4 months after the FBI raided his home and his district office. The investigation appears to be tied to Calvillo's interaction with an education technology company and to a contract that the district signed with the leader of All Here. And that leader was later indicted for fraud. All Here was hired by the school district in 2024 to build an artificial intelligence chatbot that was designed to help families navigate their children's education. But just months after the school district paid the company $3 million for the project, All Here collapsed, and the chatbot project was never completed. In his resignation letter, Calvillo said that schools should stay focused on students and learning without distractions. As we reported back in February, the FBI raided both Calvillo's home and his district office as part of his investigation. So far, federal authorities have not announced any criminal charges against him, though, and Calvillo has denied any wrongdoing. He served as the superintendent of the Los Angeles Unified School District for 4 years. Before that, he spent 14 years leading Miami-Dade schools. In her final days as Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard declassified hundreds of documents related to the origin of COVID-19, accusing Dr. Anthony Fauci of funding gain-of-function research at the Wuhan lab.
Today, on my final day as Director of National Intelligence, I'm releasing never-before-seen communications and documents that expose exactly how Fauci worked with politicized career leadership in the intelligence community to suppress the truth about his actions, the virus's lab leak origins, and his role in directing U.S. funding for this dangerous research that caused immeasurable harm and countless lost lives.
Gabbard said that the Wuhan lab is now widely regarded as the source of the unintentional lab leak of the virus that led to the pandemic.
Now, these documents expose Fauci's direct role in influencing and manipulating IC assessments on COVID-19 and how Fauci lied to Congress in 2024 when, under oath, he denied knowledge of or participation in discussions with intelligence officials about viral research. We also received testimony from multiple intelligence community whistleblowers who reported retaliation for challenging the intelligence community's manipulation of intelligence on the virus's origins, once again revealing a clear pattern of suppressing dissent, silencing critics, and burying the truth.
Hundreds of recently disclosed emails reveal that intelligence agencies followed Fauci's lead almost to the letter. Senior officials evenly publicly praised him as a neutral expert, thereby deliberately filtering out the voices of other scientists who disagreed with Fauci's views.
Now, Fauci didn't stop there. He blatantly lied to Congress under oath during his 2024 testimony to the House Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic, denying that he ever spoke to any intelligence agency about COVID. Now, the correspondence I'm releasing today directly contradicts his sworn testimony.
Additionally, Gabbard revealed the scandal concerning the systemic suppression of dissent within the U.S. intelligence agencies.
Now, we received statements from multiple whistleblowers revealing that the intelligence analysts who dared to challenge Dr. Fauci's COVID origin conclusions faced threats of retaliation, marginalization, and many suffered career setbacks. For example, a contractor was terminated just days after coming forward to ODNI as a whistleblower. Another example, those who advocated for the lab leak hypothesis or expressed dissenting views were reminded by their managers that leadership would determine which analysts would be promoted and which would not. The message was clear: go along or be punished. Senior leaders also sought to undermine whistleblowers by removing anonymity, which is required in the whistleblower process, as they made their complaints, and also insisting that their managers or attorneys be present during ODNI meetings where these whistleblowers were coming forward with their testimony, obviously creating an atmosphere of intimidation.
This announcement is expected to prompt the public to scrutinize more closely how the intelligence community shaped public opinion during the pandemic. However, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence has reiterated that the intelligence community has yet to reach a conclusion on whether the novel coronavirus originated from a laboratory leak or through natural transmission. In January of 2025, President Biden granted Fauci a preemptive pardon before leaving office, shielding Fauci from federal criminal prosecution. These latest revelations are expected to undergo a comprehensive independent verification by outside experts or Congress. Then today, Senate Homeland Security Chairman Rand Paul subpoenaed Anthony Fauci for testimony to testify in front of his panel.
Glad to be with you guys. You're right. We have poured over data from all segments of government. And believe it or not, everywhere you look, you find more tentacles of Anthony Fauci stretching through the intelligence agencies, through the science agencies, manipulation of grants. He had his fingers in everything in government. And there's never been anything like it really since J. Edgar Hoover. I mean, he was there for 40 years. The whole place has been populated by his deputies. Two of them now indicted. So there's a lot to get into.
I looked at that timeline and you start to understand the master manipulation of Dr. Fauci. He makes all these friends in the intelligence community so that the day when his own experiment blows up in the Wuhan lab, he's got the ability to bamboozle them. Is that what we think was probably going on in early 2020? He was calling on old relationships so he could mislead the intelligence community about what he really was doing?
One of the most incredible timelines, I think, is January 26th or 27th, 2020. He's getting phone calls all day long, but he's still exchanging phone calls and emails at 3 in the morning. One of the last ones at 3 in the morning is to Bob Cadillac, who I didn't know at the time what his job was, but he was in charge of the committee that oversaw dangerous research. And Fauci sending him a note at 3 in the morning. You know, you must have trouble sleeping if you're sending something at 3. Something must be bothering you if at 3 in the morning you're sending him an email that says, oh, just wanted you to see this. We're certain this is, came from animals and has nothing to do with the lab. But on day one, as he's sort of absorbing all this, he already knows he's going to have to defend because he outsourced this dangerous research to China. There wasn't adequate safety controls. And now he's got to start the spin. But it's not just spin for political purpose, it's spin for survival, because he knows he funded the research to humanize a virus, to take an animal virus that's not very contagious in humans, make it more contagious in humans, and then when it takes off like nothing you've ever seen before because it's been pre-adapted to infect humans.
When we left off last week, the United States and Iran were scheduled to sign their new Middle East peace framework at an in-person event near Lucerne, Switzerland on Friday. But then President Trump made a surprise move. On Wednesday evening, he was preparing for dinner at the Palace of Versailles with French President Emmanuel Macron. But before dinner, President Trump suddenly asked to sign the agreement with the Iranian government right away. According to reports, President Trump's top diplomat learned on the way to the Palace of Versailles that the agreement text had been finalized. A signing ceremony had already been planned for Friday at an exclusive residence that overlooks Lake Lucerne in Switzerland, but President Trump pushed to sign it that same night. And French President Emmanuel Macron said that he could quickly arrange it. So a few hours later, President Trump signed the agreement in the lower gallery of the Palace of Versailles, and a photo of the signed document was then sent to the Iranian government. President Trump and Iranian President Pezeshkian both signed the memorandum on Wednesday night, but the planned ceremony in Switzerland never happened. Vice President J.D. Vance postponed his trip when the Iranian government withdrew from the meeting. That came because violence had increased between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon. But then Israel and Hezbollah later agreed to a ceasefire on Friday. So J.D. Vance, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, and Iranian Foreign Minister Araghchi arrived in Switzerland for negotiations on Sunday. But negotiating with the Iranian government has never been easy. President Trump has always known that, and he was reminded of this recently at the G7 before signing the deal.
And I did just want to ask you about this. A wise man once said in January of 2020, Iran never won a war, but never lost a negotiation. That wise man.
Who said that?
Donald Trump.
Oh, that's what I thought you were going to say.
So how do you go back to the United States and convince a skeptical American public that this deal is a
look,
win?
Here they lost militarily. Okay.
Then, after their meeting yesterday, J.D. Vance described the discussion as historic. He said that this level of contact between officials from the United States and the Islamic Republic of Iran had not been seen for many years. Vance also said that the talks had made significant progress. Both sides agreed to work toward a final agreement within 60 days. The United States and the Iranian government also agreed to continue discussions on nuclear issues, sanctions, and a monitoring and dispute resolution process. The goal is to implement the Memorandum of Understanding that was signed on Wednesday night. Then today, Pakistan and Qatar, which are serving as mediators, made an announcement in a joint statement. They said that technical negotiations would begin immediately and they will continue through the week. They also said that a roadmap would be developed to reach a final agreement within 60 days. The parties also agreed to create a de-escalation group that will be focused on Lebanon. The group will include the United States, the Iranian government, and Lebanon. And Pakistan and Qatar will facilitate those efforts also. Also, Baghouti, the spokesperson for the Foreign Ministry of Iran, said today that the discussions had been productive and that the main goal of their delegation was to make sure that commitments made by the other side would be carried out. He said that the talks began with separate meetings between the delegations and the mediators, and a larger four-party meeting followed. And then direct talks within the framework of the four-party meeting stopped. This was because President Trump posted a warning message on Truth Social during the negotiations. In his post, President Trump called on the Iranian government to stop its proxy forces in Lebanon from creating further problems, and he warned that the United States would respond more strongly if that did not happen. But despite that setback, the process of negotiations continued through the exchange of messages between the parties through the mediation of Qatar and Pakistan, and progress was made on several parts of the Memorandum of Understanding. According to the spokesperson, they reached an agreement on a mechanism to help ships move safely through the Strait of Hormuz. Also today, J.D. Vance clarified what has been accomplished so far. He described a mechanism that would actually help American farmers if Iranian assets were ever unfrozen.
We wanted to make sure that we set up a process where if we ever unfreeze Iranian assets, we can ensure that that money, that Iranian money, goes to help the people of Iran and not to fund terrorism. So Jared Kushner actually came up with a very interesting solution with the Qataris, where basically, again, if there is any frozen Iranian assets that are unfrozen, then we have approval over that process. The Qataris have approval over that process, and then the money would actually go to buy American soy, American corn, and American wheat for the benefit of the Iranian people.
And J.D. Vance explained the four main things that were accomplished in the negotiations, which include keeping the Strait of Hormuz open so gas and oil prices come down, setting up a mechanism for de-escalation through talking if a conflict should occur in the region again, letting IAEA inspectors back into their country to permanently end a nuclear program in Iran, and setting up the process for continuing to negotiate. The whole world was watching this weekend if British Prime Minister Keir Starmer would resign. Then today, he did announce his resignation.
The question my party is asking now is whether I am best placed to lead us into the next general election. I have heard the answer of my parliamentary party to that question, and I accept that answer with good grace. Every decision I've taken has been about putting the country I love first. That is why I will resign as leader of the Labour Party. I have spoken to His Majesty the King this morning to inform him of my decision.
Keir Starmer has been embroiled in a political crisis for some time now. Over the weekend, The Observer reported that Starmer would announce his resignation today and he would outline a plan for an orderly transition. According to reports, after recently holding talks with cabinet ministers, Downing Street advisors, union leaders, and party donors, Starmer has concluded that his position is no longer tenable. However, Starmer recently stated that he would accept a challenge for the Labour Party leadership should one arise. As a result, the public was still waiting to see how credible the report was. Previously, Labour MPs had pressured him to step aside and to allow former Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham to succeed him as Labour Party leader. For several weeks, Starmer and his allies have insisted that they would resist any leadership challenge from Burnham or anyone else until after the by-election for the Makerfield constituency. As a result, Burnham won last week's by-election in the Makerfield constituency and by a landslide. This has put him in a position to challenge the party leadership. But after the election results were announced, Starmer initially vowed not to resign. However, Burnham's allies claimed that if Starmer did not resign voluntarily, Burnham would challenge him for the party leadership. By that time, Burnham had already secured the support of over 201 Labour MPs. This critical number represents more than half of the Labour MPs, meaning that Starmer could no longer convince the King that he could win the confidence of the House of Commons. At the time, everyone assumed that Starmer would make his decision on Monday since there was a crucial cabinet meeting on Tuesday. So he had to make his intentions clear before then. And several media outlets had reported that British Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper had told Starmer that he must resign. Cooper is one of Starmer's most senior cabinet ministers, and Climate Change Secretary Ed Miliband, Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood, and Transport Secretary Heidi Alexander all urged Starmer to set a timeline for his departure. President Trump had also joined in on the predictions. He said on Sunday on Truth Social that Starmer will resign. President Trump wrote, Keir Starmer will resign as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. He failed badly on two very important subjects, immigration and energy. Open North Sea oil. I wish him well. Against this backdrop, a photo suddenly went viral on British social media. In the photo, Starmer is sitting in the back seat of a car looking tired and somber as a paparazzo captured him from a distance through a car window. In British political culture, images like these are often interpreted by netizens as a kind of subtle signal suggesting that a politician may be at a critical juncture in their political career. This is not a formal political rule, but rather a phenomenon that has evolved over time within the media and online culture. One of the most classic examples of this is former British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. In November of 1990, on the day Thatcher resigned as Prime Minister, she was photographed sitting in a car with tears in her eyes as she left 10 Downing. That photograph later became an iconic moment in the history of British political photography. Since then, such farewell car photos have continued to appear, and now it's Keir Starmer's turn. Just 3 days after completing its IPO, SpaceX acquired a company called Cursor. Many people who hear the news ask the same question. Which company? What is Cursor? Cursor is an AI programming startup, so it's perfectly normal for people who are outside the industry to have never heard of it. Musk acquired the company for $60 billion. A valuation of $60 billion is certainly not a small amount. After all, Musk acquired Twitter for $43 billion, and President Trump said he overpaid for it. However, we don't need to worry about Musk overvaluing Cursor this time. It's not because he's the world's richest person. It's because neither Musk nor SpaceX paid a single penny. SpaceX paid with shares that were issued last week. Musk is willing to pay more for Cursor than he did for Twitter, which shows how important Cursor is to SpaceX. The vast majority of SpaceX's valuation comes from its AI division. The most commercially valuable part of the AI industry right now is its AI programming tools. Companies are more willing to pay for coding tools than for chatbots. However, XAI is not a leader in this field. Musk himself has acknowledged that XAI lags behind its competitors in terms of programming tools. Anthropic's Claude Code, OpenAI's Codex, and products such as Cursor and Windsurf are the strongest competitors in the market. In the past, XAI recruited engineers from Cursor. However, this method of poaching talent is clearly neither fast nor thorough enough. It would be better to simply buy the entire company. For Cursor, this is a win-win situation. The bottleneck for Cursor is computing power. As its user base grows, the AI programming tools it uses place increasingly higher demands on inference computing power, model iteration, and the stability of enterprise-grade services. If Cursor were to raise funds independently, it would need to pay continuously for computing power. However, SpaceX is uniquely positioned to provide the necessary infrastructure support, and this deal is very typical of Musk. He doesn't like to lag behind in key markets for long. If a sector is important enough, and if he can't catch up quickly, he simply acquires the market leader. From Tesla to SpaceX to XAI, Musk has always been adept at buying time by allocating extreme resources. The same is true with Cursor this time. This acquisition was part of Musk's plan, which he devised before SpaceX went public. Retaining absolute control of SpaceX was a key part of his plan. Musk owns 12.3% of Class A common stock and 93.6% of Class B common stock. Since Class B stock typically carries more voting power, Musk's total voting power amounts to 85.1%. This is the hard-earned lesson that Musk has learned from his journey as an entrepreneur from the beginning to now. Not only is Musk capable of building electric cars and Dragon spacecraft, he is also a major player in the online payments industry. However, on the surface, Musk appeared to have failed when it comes to PayPal. In 1999, in Palo Alto, California, the young and promising Elon Musk sold Zip2, the first company he co-founded with his brother and one of his friends. He received $22 million in cash for his share. He then used the funds to co-found X.com, an online financial services and email payment company. In the same office building, there was another company that also handles online payments. That was Confinity, a startup set up by Max Raphael Levchi and Peter Thiel. The flagship product that they developed was PayPal. PayPal was more popular than X.com service, so if you can't beat your competitor, join forces with them. In March 2000, X.com and PayPal did just that. The two companies merged, each holding a 50% stake, and they named the new company's product X PayPal. Within the merged company, Musk returned as CEO. When I say that he returned as CEO, I'm referring to his experience of losing control at X.com. At the end of 1999, the company's investors regarded Musk as inexperienced, and they replaced him with Intuit CEO Bill Harris. The atmosphere within the merged company was far from harmonious. Musk preferred Microsoft software over Unix, while the PayPal engineer team used Unix. This led to increasingly serious technical problems for the company, which was unable to meet the needs of its rapidly growing customer base. Its website crashed almost once a week. In September of 2000, Elon Musk and his first wife, Justine Wilson, went on their honeymoon 9 months after getting married. After the couple boarded the plane, the former PayPal executive team initiated a motion to remove Musk as CEO. Musk had just stepped off the plane when he realized he might be removed as CEO yet again, so he quickly returned. However, it was already too late. The board ousted Musk and they replaced him with Thiel, and the company was renamed PayPal. So why do I say that this was a failure on the surface? In 2002, PayPal went public. Several months later, PayPal was acquired by eBay for $1.5 billion, and Musk, as the largest shareholder, received $175.8 million, so he had the funds for his next science adventure. The story of what happened to Musk after that is widely known. With $100 million, he founded SpaceX in May of 2002, and he became the company's CEO and chief engineer. In February of 2004, he invested $6.35 million into Tesla, and he became the majority shareholder and joined Tesla's board of directors as chairman. This time, he wasn't kicked out. And regarding his subsequent experiences with OpenAI, we've already covered that not long ago. But this time with SpaceX, Musk has made thorough preparations to ensure that his control isn't diluted. This time, he can guarantee that the company develops exactly as he envisions. However, his story with the PayPal team had a satisfying ending. Even though Musk has retained his position as CEO at SpaceX, the company's growth has been fraught with challenges. From 2006 to 2008, all 3 Falcon 1 launch attempts failed, and Musk nearly went bankrupt. At the time, Musk faced challenges that went beyond SpaceX's cash flow. Tesla's financial situation had also been severely impacted by the financial crisis. But just as he was on the verge of collapse, Founders Fund appeared like a white knight and injected $20 million into SpaceX. Founders Fund was established by Peter Thiel, the co-founder of PayPal, in 2005. Most of the members of Founders Fund are former colleagues from the PayPal team. Although they have technical disagreements with Musk, they all have considerable confidence in his abilities. At the time, SpaceX was in crisis, and it was valued at less than $500 million. However, in the eyes of most venture capitalists, a company that has blown up 3 rockets in a row and was on the brink of bankruptcy wasn't worth their time. Yet, Peter Thiel recognized Elon Musk's genius and he believed that Musk could succeed, and Thiel was right. SpaceX succeeded in launching the Falcon 1 into orbit in 2008. Later that year, SpaceX received a $1.6 billion NASA contract and survived. To date, Founder Fund's $20 million investment in SpaceX has yielded an astonishing 4,000-fold return, arguably making it the most fascinating investment in the history of venture capital. And that's a wrap for this episode. Thank you so much for your support of Front Page. Please remember to leave a comment below the video. This is really helping us to be seen all around the world. The more people who watch Front Page, the more freedom-loving people the world will have. And please hit the like button and hit the notification bell after subscribing. And please share this video with your friends and family, because everybody deserves to know the truth.